Peace and love, y'all. Um, when I was before I started this live, I was just thinking in my head, and I was like, when our people say things like, "Cause we not black, cause black is an adjective," or we might say like, "Black is not a nationality," but we don't never do nothing about it. That's like saying they stole my bike, or but you just don't do nothing, but you telling everybody, "Yeah, he stole my bike." That's how I look at it when we say we not black, really, and that's a name that hold us back, but we ain't doing nothing. But this live stream right here, it should be an epic live. It's gonna be an epic live because I was watching this video like 2 or 3 times. Last night, I passed out watching it. Today, I was watching it while I was getting ready, getting in the shower. And now I'm gonna put all my energy, I'm gonna put some attention into this and listen, because I learned a lot from listening to Taj Tarik Bey videos. He dropped a lot of references and sources, and he go over a lot of information. So I did my own research after I watched a lot of his videos. So I'm never gonna dismiss no information that's let me see, that you could apply and start seeing results. And then I see Taj, I study, so I see Taj conducting his business and handling his affairs. Now, that's inspiring and motivating me to do more for myself. Not because I'm looking up to him or I'm following him. I haven't seen an elder. If it's other elders, don't get me wrong, it might be some, but I ain't see a lot of many elders that's really standing on law and really, trying to not trying, but teaching our people the history before Europeans came here and colonized our land and corrupted our mind. Like, it's not a lot of elders that's really putting this together. And if you know how to do your research and do the history, you could tell that when you see somebody that's old, like that gets 70, 60 years old, and they giving us back knowledge and information, what you think they doing it for?
Well, someone like Taj is probably doing it for the money, but I'm sure in your mind you think he's doing it to uplift fallen humanity.
He could be getting paid or he could be rich, but I don't know, man. I think Taj is just really, like, if you listen to what he said in this interview, he said he got done in the military, something happened to him, and that's where his basis of his energy is at. That's where he put his energy at, because he seen how foul the military was or something like that. I'm gonna listen to it again, and I'm gonna hear, and I might learn more about him myself, but it ain't about him, it's about the information that he put out. So even if I listen to Dr. York, I might not like him, and I might not be able to deal with him. But if the information is good, I'm gonna take it. If it's valid, I'm gonna use it and apply it. A lot of people like to dismiss information because it's coming from somebody that you don't like or whatever. But I want to hear what the brother Taj is about to go in on this video. I know this is about to be powerful. Y'all hit the like, get ready, get your popcorn ready. Whatever y'all do.
Everybody like, share, get it out there.
And this is the brother on his channel. He just hit 1,000 subscribers. Revision Radio Network. I think I found it. I just typed in Taj Tarik Bey and recent videos on YouTube, and it popped right up. So y'all should be able to find it if you want to watch it. I I'll post a link in the comment section. Matter of fact, anybody want to just go over there right now and watch it, go ahead. But I'm gonna do my reaction.
Okay.
And when you see in the lessons in Noble Drew Lee how it say every living thing is connected to every other living thing, I feel like we all gotta connect to the elders when they come give us back information. We gotta listen to what they saying and look it up and apply it, because they know certain things, especially when it's dealing with law and history and putting stuff on the record on a national scale. Like this work that we doing, it ain't for opinions and emotions. It's really uplifting fallen humanity. And a lot of people might not see it. A lot of people get emotional, but facts is facts. When the Europeans was up in them caves, what was their nationality then? What was our nationality when we was teaching them how to wash and stuff like that? You need to look into that, because we wasn't black, Negro, colored, and African American. The word black only go back to the 1100s, and it's High German. They talk about that in this stream, but I always emphasized and made sure I put a lot of extra, emphasis on that. I said that on almost all of my streams before. Black is an adjective. I'm not colorblind. I ain't never seen a black man a day in my life. I'm not colorblind. I ain't never seen a black man a day in my life. I'm not colorblind. I ain't never seen a black man a day in my life. I'm not colorblind. I ain't never seen a black man a day in my life. And I want y'all to hear this stream and get some pens and papers ready, because you might have to write some stuff down and look this stuff up and study it. Because when you dealing with law, you got color of law, color of authority, and then you got positive law, constitution, treaties, nature's law, God's law, and international laws. Is treaties, and the law of nations. And the law of nations is basically nature's law, really, if you really break it down. But let's listen to this. And I'm gonna add on as much as I could. I don't want to cut them off too much, but I want to make this a stream where I'm watching and learning, and people could see how we view how we view what they talking about, and we just sharing knowledge. So let's go.
God, it's happening with you, man. Sheik. Busy. I know, God. Let me tell you about that before we get started. Let me tell you about that food, man. Here we go, y'all.
All right, so I'm not gonna play the first part. I'm just gonna skip it to like the 10-minute mark, and we're going from right here.
So the United States undermining Japan with because they would bring materials in from outside and produce things cheaply, and actually they were undermining them and sinking some of their ships. That's what really started the war with Japan. Not necessarily what you hear in the books today.
Okay, so what's going on in this video is pretty much Devon is looking to big up his master teacher, Taj Tarik Bey. He saw a video and he liked the information that Taj Tarik Bey was kicking. So he wants us to now listen in on the video and see if we can learn something from Brother Taj Tarik Bey. So this should be interesting, because as you may or may not know, Taj Tarik Bey, he's one of those that just rambles and rambles and rambles and rambles, and a lot of the stuff that he says is incoherent and doesn't make any sense. He just goes. He goes from one topic to the other, to the other, to the other. So this should be pretty interesting. Let's see if we're going to learn something from Brother Taj Tarik Bey today.
We know they're not telling us real story. They're telling us what they want us to know to control, because they have to control the narrative. It's about controlling the psychology of the people. Reconstruction. Absolutely. And it's funny, because not to cut you off, but like my show is called Revision Radio. Is based on revisionist history, because revisionist history is told from the point of view of those that were conquered, those that were stolen from. So it's the real story outside of the narrative of the mainstream dominant society that are the invaders.
Yes. You know, and then I also had a couple of older books on the Spanish Inquisition, and also one was a very rare book that I actually loaned out and never got back. And this was where they were taking over the strongholds of Al-Andalusia, and which later became known as Spain. And also when they, like a lot of people.
Hey, Devon, no smoking inside. Please take that cigarette outside and then rejoin us after you're done.
Like today, they talk about the ghetto, and they always associate the ghetto with our people here.
Sure, yes.
Our people don't know that the ghetto was really the Yetta. And the Yetta was the wealthy areas of the Moors in Iberia, which is now known as Europe. Where there are original people there too. The Picts, the Doves, and the Maures. So that's why when you do research.
So if you go look up the Picts, the Doves, and the Maures, these are the original indigenous people from Iberia. They are Moors.
Wrong. Now, how could the Picts be the indigenous people from the Iberia, and then you want to say the Picts are the Moors, but everybody knows the history of the Moors. The Moors crossed over from North Africa into what is now known as Spain. So if they crossed over from Africa, then that means that they're not indigenous to the Iberia. Now, if you guys want to read up on the Picts, you can check out David McRitchie's book, Ancient and Modern Britons. It was published in the late 1800s. It's an old book. I hear people say a lot of the information in the book is wrong, but it's, you know, if you guys are interested in that, you can just check it out and vet the information for yourself and see if you agree with it or not. I've read the book myself. It was an interesting read, definitely some questionable information in it, but nevertheless, it speaks on the Picts, the Moors, the Gypsies, and a bunch of other names of different groups of people. The book has 2 volumes. I read both volumes. And as I stated, it's an interesting read. So if you got some time on your hands, you can pick it up. Between both volumes, it's probably about 1,000 pages, 1,100 pages. So check it out.
So that's why I say when we got elders like this that's giving us back a lot of knowledge and history, look into it. Now, I ain't like saying that Professor James Smalls or Farrakhan or none of them ain't doing good things. I'm just saying, like, the work that they doing is on some sellout type stuff. I'm gonna just say it straight up. They all calling us black. Or anybody that's calling our people black is an agent. It's 2021. Anybody could get an etymology dictionary and read and see what these words mean and break them down. And they trying to attach it to nationalities and all.
Excuse me, sir, I must interject. Those individuals that you're speaking on, do not try and say that black is a nationality. That is not a thing. You are just blowing smoke right now. That is what you Moorish sovereigns do. You say silly things like that to try and prove yourselves right. No one teaches that black is a nationality. Everybody knows that black is what will be considered a race, or white is what will be considered a race. Nobody confuses black to be a nationality. That is not a thing. That is just something you guys do and say to try and make yourselves seem like you're right. So please stop talking this nonsense.
All this stuff, or act like we a nation. Nope. Y'all ain't gonna keep playing. That's a lie. So let's get to the knowledge. Get a law library. Get a law dictionary, get an etymology dictionary, and get a regular dictionary, because you're going to learn something today. Let's go. If you want to learn, if you don't, then keep staying ignorant and get mad and punch the TV or something. But let's go.
Even into Iberia and European history, all of the old coats of arms are Moors. And most of our people, when they look at Europe, they keep thinking about the Paleolith or the hybrid Moor.
So when you hear me saying how the Moors used to dress, some of us used to wear turbans. We used to wear them white suits. I know when you seen the Moors that was washing the Europeans, they had all white thobes on. Y'all running around talking about, I want to wear Montclairs and Balenciagas, and there ain't nothing wrong with that. But when people see you in that, they look at you and they think you a slave because you got on name brand clothes. You don't got your own brand on. You ain't make your own brand. You making somebody else's brand popular. We all are. I'm part of guilty of it too. Look what I'm wearing. Pony shirt. I should be wearing we should be having all our own clothing. But when you don't have a mind frame that you want to pass down generational wealth, or you want to do for self, then you always going to be a part of something that's not in your best interest. They don't have it. Whatever contract you into might not have your best interest. It might be hidden stuff in the contract.
Or hybrid Europeans that are common today, and they forgot that most of the Aboriginal Moors were genocided out. And so when they talk about Europe, they think they're talking about the hybrid Europeans, and they're really talking still about North Africa. Our concepts of how we look at ourselves are absolutely incorrect.
That's a fact. I mean, yeah, that's unquestionable for anybody that's looking into the situation. That's a fact.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because when you do have an actual scholarly background and research, even a lot of Europeans, when you talk to them, they'll admit it. They don't deny it. They just don't talk openly. But when they see they don't necessarily try to hide it.
That's a fact. That's real. Mm-hmm. So when did you get exposed to the nationality aspect as far as the Moorish temple, those teachings?
All right. Basically, I had some old notes because I used to also go to Washington, D.C., and I would go into the house journals. It was before they had internet. I would go every year, and I'd go into the house journals and congressional records and dig stuff up. Also, in Philadelphia, I knew about Winona, and I knew about Tammany. I knew about that history, etc. And a lot of the little keys were actually there. So after a while, it became quite obvious that when they were talking about Indians, they were actually talking about the Moors.
Wrong.
Ourselves. Matter of fact, they didn't start calling us Indians to the north. They started calling us Indians to the south, actually with the Carib Moors, with the Taino Arawak tribe, etc., which now today as Borican, and the
Puerto Ricans.
Because they're not Puerto Ricans either. When you talk to a lot of the brothers down there, when you start talking real history, they'll tell you they know they're not Puerto Rican too. But they, just like a lot of people do, people go along to get along, not to be oppressed. Because when you start telling the truth, people start doing things to you, if you get the whole point. But when you talk, just like you see a lot of the Dravids from Sinde, etc. When you know about the actual history of the Berber tribes coming from North Africa, going up into upper parts of Asia, and that Sinde is still a part of Africa. And once you tell them that that they're Hindustani, there ain't no such thing as Indian, they'll tell you we know too. But it's what
This the mainstream ideology. We got to just fall in line with it.
But because some of the Naga and Dravids came here also, thousands of years ago before the war, before the Great Earthquake. So when they had the Great Superdevere, during the periods of the ancient Moabite Empire, ruled actually from Central America. And so you see Aunt Hagar that's buried in the corner of Kaaba in Mecca, ruled South America. So and a lot of that history is known by the Aboriginal people, but a lot of them don't talk to us because we are up here pretty much prejudiced against our own selves and against our own blood. And most of the people here, unfortunately, look at the other Asiatics and Africans as not being their own family. And so those discussions don't take place with us. But when they know that you know the history, they'll start telling you a lot of the history that's here. And even from the position that our people didn't know that the oldest pyramids are actually on this side. And the largest pyramid was actually in Mexico City. That the hybrid Europeans took down and actually built cities with to bury the African history.
It's their nature, is what they always been doing. Yeah, we call them the hybrid because we know that they were procreated from experimentation.
Yeah,
a hodgepodge of different genes, genetic experimentation.
That's where they get the name Caucasus from, and that's actually from Yaku's middle name. Matter of fact, the genetic technology took place in.
That's why Jay-Z said, "I'm ready to chase a Yaku back in the caves."
In Yucatan, but the more direct experiments took place in Patagonia, which is later called Argentina. This is why you see a lot of the hybrid Europeans when Hitler was countering a lot of the operations of people who are claiming to be something that they're not, because they're not the real Saba. We're real Saba.
Excuse me, Devon. I've been meaning to ask you, what is that you have wrapped around your neck, and what is that you have on your head? It appears to me as if you have a shirt on your head, and what appears to be wrapped around your neck looks like a towel. So if you happen to watch this video, please in the comment section comment on what you have on your head and wrapped around your neck, because I just can't figure it out.
Okay, absolutely we are. That's right.
Yeah, and Jew was made up to cover up Saba. Saba is us. And the culture. That's where they get the word Sabbath from. So when they say you're keeping the Sabbath, they're really talking about the ancient Sabian Moors. That's the foundation of civilization, truthfully.
Of all the sciences that they've been hiding throughout worldwide, between the European Shriners and all the other quote-unquote religious leaders.
Yeah, that's why all of them, even among the Asiatics, all of them in their chambers wear the Moorish fez. That's why all of your lodges have Moorish names. And one of the oaths of the Knights of Columbus and the Ku Klux Klan was to see that the Moors never rise again. That's one of the major motives as to why the Moors here at North America are treated the worst. And so our people have been trained to call it racism and prejudice when it's really Inquisition operations, because we are actually the most direct descendants of the ancient Canaanites, Moabites. And
absolutely.
That's where so much hatred comes from. And this is also why the hybrid Europeans who stole our history, and once they ran us out of Al-Andalus, that's why they do the rituals in South America every year, and also up here, where the hybrid Europeans, they do the dance, or the dance of mockery, and that's called the Mummers Parade. And that's why they assemble at 6th and Moor Street at Philadelphia, traditionally, and then they would put charcoal on their face and go west, young man. That's Horace Greeley, the New York newspaper tycoon that came into the Whiggamore Party in 1853-4 in that era of time.
Rigmaroles.
Yeah, that's what the rigmaroles are. And this is why you see even the hybrid Europeans to this day in all judicial quarters and in all judicial courts, they will wear a curly wig imitating the Moors. That's why they call them wig or Moors.
You know what? Unfortunately, I was kidnapped in warehouse for some time, right? And during one of my I was doing a program run. We were sitting there waiting to be escorted back to the domicile, the living area, and one of the police, one of the hybrids, the Albions, he came by. He was like, Tamil, he was like, yeah, Assalamu alaikum, right? The guy boy turned around. He said, oh, well, salam, and they greet each other. He was like, oh, so we standing, we like in a cut, so they don't see us, and then they like, he said, so you coming to the lodge tonight? And he's like, yeah, you know, these are European, these is Caucasians. I'm sitting there like, wow, and it's Juma Friday, so you got a hallway full of Muslims, the NOIs out there, Nation of God, the Orthodox Sunni Muslims, everybody standing, and me and my brother sitting there like, wow, these niggas really is, they really on it like that.
Yeah, and it's like that, you know, it's the really interesting thing, Brother Pharaoh, is how many of our people, except when you get into what you call Arab chambers. When you get into Arab chambers, and then you get amongst, because I also later, you know, became assistant minister in the Nation of Islam too.
So you was a part of the Nation of Islam. That's what I'm saying. Like, we trying to get the origins of you, God, because you know, we all are a combination of all our past experiences.
Yeah, I've been around, brother. Muhammad Ali sat and eat at my table in my home the way I ate your food at the spot.
Oh, that's official. That's official.
But let me say this to you. One of the things I learned early, at first it was disappointing to me when I didn't really, you know, have real clear understanding of it. Because I didn't go into any movement dumb, if you get the whole point. I was already from childhood a scholar by default, not by intention, by default. That's only because, like I said, my father always read. So I always found myself clashing, if you get the point, because I had research knowledge. I didn't go by emotional follower mentality. Not that I didn't respect, or not that I didn't.
Ladies and gentlemen, now as I mentioned before, the man that Devon wants us to listen to right now, the man we are listening to, is Taj Tarik Bey. Now, he put this man on because he wanted us to learn from Brother Taj Tarik Bey. But at this very moment, Devon has fallen asleep on his master teacher. Wow. How ridiculous is that? He put Brother Taj on for us to listen to, and he falls asleep on him. Taj Tarik Bey has put Devon Bey to sleep. Wow.
Didn't appreciate, you know, I didn't move. I never moved based on emotion or that submissive follower mentality. I never did. I always operated from the perspective, what can I do really, truthfully, to help liberate our people? And one of the things I discovered is that a lot of things we talk about even today, a lot of people in positions of authority and power that we've respected also had that knowledge. But when they come before the believers, they have what you call a program doctrine. And this is one of the reasons why I even left the nation when I found out, because I already knew from research, from documentation, that the Temple of Allah was a breakoff from the Moorish movement under infiltration from J. Edgar Hoover. If you get the whole point. And that stuff is documented. You know, it has nothing to do with beliefs, it has to do with documentation.
That's a whole show.
Yeah, and this is why you see a lot of times when you get into the real documentation, not emotions, you'll see people start competing with who's did who's who did this first, and all that kind of stuff. And it's more or less people emotionally trying to protect images, but not necessarily doing actual research. And I found that over the period of years to be a pattern with us, and also a dangerous pattern, unfortunately. Because what I find is that many of our people usually go into different organizations, just like when some of our brothers get kidnapped, as an example, and they go into one of the POW camps, of the private POW camps for human trafficking, right? And they'll call it prisons, and when they're actually POW camps, and the deal is you'll see how people will club up and then start doing things to counter the quote unquote what they call the system, and this is how a lot of our people get back to Saba. They'll call it Judaism or Hebrew. They'll say it like that, but that's really Saba, right? Or Islam, trying to get back relative to rejecting the false and the colorable political jurisdiction that we all have been captured in. If you get the whole point. Yeah. And what you find is that a lot of our people will get their knowledge by a club association, and then you find only a handful actually do scholarly research. That's true. And then what happens is, I recognize over years that this is what has caused a lot of schisms with a lot of us, where you have different versions of Islam, different versions of Hebrews, and all this stuff, and our people are divided. Every time we're dealing with it from an emotional, pat us on the back about the great things we did perspective, rather than really do research and recognize that in reality, we actually lost power in the early to the mid 1800s, not actually earlier. And they'll go into the 1555 good shit Jesus type thing, the great African diaspora stuff. And once you start doing real research, you find out that most of that information is fictional, and that we were actually just overthrown. That's heavy. Yeah. And again, when you start talking to some hybrid, odd fellows, which are all Europeans, Knights of Columbus and Archivos, or what is known as Ku Klux Klan, they don't deny that. They just don't teach it. That's a fact. And that's supposed to. That's essentially that is part of the body of knowledge that is known as the Great Masonic Secret. It's our people. And our people think it's some kind of secret devil club that ain't got nothing to do with us, and we're the secret. And we are the best kept secret. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because in this let's say genre, this category of those freedom fighters brothers that's dealing with nationality, dealing with the Moorish doctrine, you have been one of the most long-standing teachers, but at the same time, you've been considered the most unorthodox. Of course, because now and I'll recognize that. Now let me give you some more background to give you an idea of where I'm coming from. Yes, please.
Excuse me, Devon. You were the one that put Taj Tarik Bey on, and it doesn't seem like you're paying attention. Can you please pay attention to your master teacher? Please.
Like, for instance, Muhammad Ali and myself, we were friends. He ate at my house. Held my son on the porch taking pictures. When my son Hannibal, Dr. Hannibal, was a baby, right? Joe Tex, the singer, ate at my house. Sterling, I knew all, a lot of them. At that time, I was younger, and I kind of knew, like when you're in the minister's circle.
That's a nice looking sandwich you have there, Devon. But once again, it seems like you're not paying attention, and you're the one that put Taj Tarik Bey on. Show respect to your elder.
You already know that there's more than one level of learning. As an example, like in the nation, when you get the actual facts, etc., and then one of the things that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad would always say in relationship to the Adab knowledge, he would say, after the supreme wisdom, and you study, he said the supreme wisdom will be handed to you later. Well, I always took that because I approach things from an investigatory position. I always have. So I was always curious to me, what is the supreme wisdom that's to be handed to us later? And then I used to go down to Washington, D.C., go into congressional records, and I found out he was an adept in the Moorish Temple of Science. He was. Yeah. And then I began to recognize the supreme wisdom was the true identity of our people, which was one of the reasons why you always got the X. Because it was unknown during that. It wasn't known. No, it was not known to you. It was not given to you. Like, say, for instance, like if you did some extraordinary things, when I say some extraordinary things that are charitable to the people, or you become very influential, then they would give you a holy name. Then you would have a full name like Muhammad Ali, as an example. You get the whole point? Absolutely. Yeah. And also I went to a show, I think was in either Baltimore. I think it was Baltimore. A show that Joe Tex was doing, because he was a singer. And
I heard you as a singer.
Well, yeah, I have
did some musician stuff, some jazz stuff. I've been digging in the crates. I heard you do some things, beloved.
Yeah, I have some friends, yeah. I know Kenny Gamble and all them. I was as a matter of fact, I was starting to sing. The Ebonies, if you remember them, all those were close friends of mine, and I did a lot of work in studios and stuff. But I had stopped because I didn't want my wife to be insecure, with things that was going on that I saw. So I stopped.
I was there.
And as a matter of fact, when I first started singing, I remember I was singing with Sonny Miller's band, and because I was younger, they took me in the back of the Masonic Hall down on Kane Avenue, and we would go to Pennsville, New Jersey, and pick up Teddy. Teddy Pendergrass was a drummer then, and he would drum for us. Then he would drum for Harold now.
Okay. Oh yeah, Blue Notes. That's right.
Yeah.
Blue Notes. That's right.
Oh, yeah. So I know a few people.
I was in a recording studio and talking to the producer, and I was telling him, I was like, I'm setting up. That was before the event, and I said, my wife and I were going to an event with the Grand Sheik Taj Tarik Bey, XYZ, Dr. G, and he was like, his father used to play in a jazz band. He said you were a part of a lot of music back, and he said a lot of people don't know that you have a rich music history. And I was like, wow. And I said, I'm using that. I'm gonna let him know.
Yeah. Matter of fact, every once in a while, because I don't have any breaks, so I go to karaoke every once in a while with friends and just have fun. And that's
really that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
But anyway, back to point. I want to finish that so you have a quick background.
Okay.
Also, after I got married, I got married actually my high school girlfriend, my wife, right? It's Hannibal's mother. And at that time they were drafting, and so I got drafted, and went to service, and they were saying, you can bring your wife and all this stuff. Anyway, lies, you know how they do. And
no, this is the part where I was talking about, where he starts saying, this is where all his energy come into. This is why he do a lot of this work. This is where his anger came from. He started putting his anger towards doing this work. Listen.
I remember they was taking finance that you were supposed to be sending home, and they was actually stealing it from the brothers and the Puerto Ricans. Oh yeah, and really messed my whole life up, man.
Wow. So the money that you trying to send home, the fiat you trying to send home, they actually.
I didn't have any vices or anything, so I was sending everything home. And
so you send everything home for the family, and it's never making it.
Nope.
Wow.
Anyway, they had the nerve to send me to the Red Cross to so-called get a loan. They had no idea. And plus, I was an expert with weapons.
Okay.
And while they were messing with me, I was plotting on other things.
Absolutely.
With them.
Absolutely.
So that lasted a year. I was getting in fights every weekend. They come to me with that nigga stuff. I was only 135 pounds then. But let me tell you, they had no idea. They turned me into Frankenstein. While they were planning, and as a matter of fact, I didn't find out till later that they was actually training me for special forces because I was so intelligent and also good with weapons, but they never told me that. And this is why I kept getting in Article 29s, because I was getting in fights weekly. Them hybrids mess with me, it was on the floor, and I'd go sit down like nothing happened. And you know how, because in the Army, if you injure or even damage military property, you automatically in the brig. I never got sent to the brig. I just kept getting Article 29s, right? But anyway, to be honest with you, that anger that I got in there never left me. And one of the things, and the only reason I didn't become a professional assassin.
Now, I know Taj Tarik Bey is what we would call a jack of all trades. But are you guys listening to the story that this man is telling? He's pretty much saying he was so good in the army that he could have been an assassin. And he's about to explain why he didn't become an assassin. Like, this story is laughable. Like, I do not believe a word that is coming out of his mouth.
And one of the things, and the only reason I didn't become a professional assassin, and it wasn't for the sake of some enemies, it was for them. While they think in one way, I'm thinking another way. When I came out, I converted that anger into what I do to this very day. That's the basis of my passion.
That's official. That's the drive. That's official. I appreciate that. I know a lot of people that attribute their beginnings, whether they're with you now or not, they attribute their beginnings into the reality of nationalization and just the Moorish doctrine becoming, separate, from the system. They attribute it to you and learning from. Listen, I listen to a lot of your videos, and I'm telling you, it's like I said, I did a bid, and I was in the law library. As we back in the law library, we deal with that Black's Law Dictionary is on fire. It's lit. Let's go. You walking people through that, and that's a whole nother language. A whole other doctrine that we got to become familiar with.
Now keep this in mind, and many of our listeners need to know this. They have what you call an international convention on education. This is where heads of nations come together and plan education systems that are operative in most nation states, particularly in the Western states. And a lot of people don't know this. Because the concept that our people have is that a lot of the abuses and miseducation that's practiced against us at North America, they think is distinct, not knowing that most of the political jurisdictions in the Western Hemisphere are actually networked together and are actually run from a small group of people, group of people that claim to be a certain religion that actually control the media. And the concept that our people have is that these are different political jurisdictions, and in fact, they're actually not. As an example, Canada and the United States Corporation have the same international number, operating from the Circle Church and the Chancery on Fleet Street, England, under the Queen, who answered to the bishopric of the Jesuit order to the Popes of Rome. And the corporation, United States Corporation, registered in Austria, and our people think it's a country. This is a lot of the fundamental problems that are prevalent with our people when you try to share with our people that come from different walks of life, and they're operating from a belief perspective rather than a research perspective. And they think that they look for their sovereign liberties within their religious positions, not in their pedigree or bloodline positions. And this has been one of our greatest injuries.
Yeah, we don't know how to separate, switch the pivot, and deal with things on separate fronts.
Well, it's not that it's because our people have never been, not that they never have been, but because they've been separated from positive law jurisprudence and the international principle issued of status in the states, they keep looking at themselves from the training that comes from the Knights of Columbus and Ku Klux Klan under the Christian.
So that's what he's talking about, the Christian black codes. And he's talking about international law. And I'm going to read a little. Just give me a second.
Christian black codes. And they keep thinking that they're black people.
Yeah, definitely.
Rather than recognizing or even doing research, understanding that comes from Middle English, from Old High German, that actually means pale colors and white spot. They think it means ebony. And they think it's African. And it's actually a code that was set up in the 1800s to distinguish defeated Moors from free Moors. Mm-hmm. This is where you find a lot of this information when you go into the Dungy case of like 1854, 1853, just before the Dred Scott case, which is the most important slave case of 1857. And then you start finding that stuff in the records, and our people today be calling themselves black, and in the 1800s they was Moors. And but the issue is that our people have been trained by people who are set among us. They would talk about brands and branding, you know, with the nomenclature.
Yeah, that's right. The titles and names. That's right.
On us, but they wouldn't tell our people the truth that it was to the legal position and that it makes such persons in law automatically wards of the state, and it also makes them non-descendable. And that is one of the most important subject matters that many of our so-called leaders know about but won't go there.
Because from the root.
No, because it'll take that finance out their pocket. Once the people begin to recognize that these principles are universal. You know, a lot of times, some of the principles that Drew Ali presented to the people will look at it from the perspective that, you know, it's a one of the earliest Islamic sects to reactivate Islam in the Western Hemisphere, which is true. However, that's the perspective the people have. They don't have the perspective of it had to do with international law operations that were actually going on with the restoration of the birthright and estates of these people.
Let's pause right there. As we're talking about international law. So let's go to Title 18, United States Codes, Section 1201.
Uh-oh. Devon is about to get deep on us. He's about to educate us on something. Let's see where he goes with this one.
It's amended to read as follows. Kidnapping. A. Whoever unlawfully seizes, confines, enveils, decoys, kidnaps, abducts, or carries away and holds for ransom or reward, or otherwise any person, except in the case of a minor by the parent thereof, when 1. The person is willfully transported in interstate or foreign commerce. 2. Any such act against the person is done within the special maritime and territorial jurisdiction of the United States. 3. Any such act against the person is done within the special aircraft jurisdiction of the United States as defined in Section 101, 32 of the Federal Aviation Act of 1958 as amended, 49 U.S.C. 1301. Or 4. The person is a foreign official as defined in Section 1116, or an official guest as defined in Section 1116 of this title, shall be punished by imprisonment for any term of years or for life. With respect to subsection A1, above, the failure to release the victim within 24 hours after he shall have been unlawfully seized, confined, inveigled, or envied, that's INVEIGLED, decoy, kidnapped, abducted, or carried away, shall create a rebuttable presumption that such person has been transported in interstate or foreign commerce. C. If 2 or more persons conspire to violate this section, and 1 or more of such persons do any overt act to affect the object of the conspiracy, each shall be punished by imprisonment for any term of years or for life. Section 202, the analysis of Chapter 55 of Title 18 United States Code is amended by deleting. Now, this is Title 3, protection of foreign officials and official guests.
Excuse me, Devon. Why in the doohickey are you reading this? I do not see the point. Why are you reading this? Please answer that question for me. Because I'm sure you're about to misinterpret it and then try to tie it to some random nonsense that you guys love to do. Why are you reading this?
We won't read through that. I'm going to let y'all go and listen to the rest.
And they keep looking at it, and many people who are conscious keep promoting it as a religion, and it's a birthright restoration issue. The religion is secondary. And this is where you have a lot of confusion with people who keep looking at it from that perspective, because that's how we've been trained. Almost everything relative to the Asiatics of North America, whenever we sought to challenge the jurisdiction of the hybrid Europeans, we always think, oh, I gotta go back to being a Jew. I gotta go back to being a Muslim. And that's the concept. And while that is indeed part of the history and culture, all of that stuff is ours. We weren't just Muslim. We were Ibri, and a lot of our people who don't know the real history think that Ibri is a religion or people, when Ibri is what we did. When they did the Great Superdevere, where you see in the Septuaginta, you read in the Septuaginta, Torah, etc., which later becomes the Bible, and it talks about the dividing of the land between Ham and Cush. That great super devere of the movement of the Cushites, which is us, right? When we crossed the great water of Atlantis before it become an ocean. That was even before the great cocoa plate shift. You know, remember when the cocoa plate shift right in the Yucatan, and then you had the Great Divide, and the Great River became an ocean. Those of us who crossed the river at that time are called those who crossed over, which is the Ibri.
Yeah,
that's where
that's right.
Ibri. And this is where the misconception of Hebrew has its origin, which is a fiction.
Yeah.
So you know, we be thinking that that's a separate people, and it's no different than me coming, say, from Shakamatsan territory that we call now Philadelphia, and crossing the river or something like that, you know, and coming to another area, and then they think we're different people. We're the same people, you know. And so what you have is that they've used our desires for liberation to actually create a schism operation among us, and our people don't know that that was actually a schism operation set up by the FBI and the CIA among us. This is why when you see our people trying to liberate, they be looking at each other. Oh, I'm Hebrew. Oh, I'm Muslim. Oh, I'm Muslim.
Yeah,
you know, I'm Coptic Christian, and that was planned. We're all of that stuff is ours.
Absolutely.
Not one, all of it. You know, and what I discovered over the years is that that's known by a lot of our so-called leaders, but they won't go there because it will spoil their platforms.
Yes.
Because many of the so-called liberating so-called movements really have been set up mainly by some of them, many of them being 32 and 33-degree Masons, who condemn it publicly and in secret, got one of the titles, whether it's in Islam or whether it's in Judaism or Ibri, and pretending that our people are black, knowing that they're Moors, ancient Canaanites, Moabites, knowing that we're standing on our own land. That was one of the rude lessons that was taught to Il Malik when he made the Hajj, and he went among some of the French Muslims, and that French Muslim, blue-eyed French Muslim that he was calling the devil, told him that, brother, don't come over here with that black and white language. That's slave language. Say, many Europeans know more Islam than you'll ever know. To you, Maghreb is evening salat. Maghreb is North America, Morocco, the most extreme west. You need to study, brother. You left home. That was one of the rules that those in the ministry know about Malcolm, but they never talk about it publicly. Never. They'll talk about, them burning his house and all that other stuff, and him saying some things that Wallace said, because Wallace was the first one that started talking about, the Lamb's children with them secretaries. It wasn't Bill Malik, Wallace. And of course, later he left too. So did Charles.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we know when the Nation of Islam, you mentioned earlier, one of the situations I said this, I have this debate and conversation with a lot of brothers, that Elijah never finished teaching. We know that.
It was infiltrated, and a lot of times when he went to Arizona, they would be talking about, because it had respiratory issues. No, the real deal is that the nation was infiltrated. Anyway, from the door, but meaning that it was becoming more pronounced.
Yeah. Have you ever read the book, Black Angels?
Yeah.
About Thomas Hobbes, I think his name is. Yeah. That goes. A lot of people, the master teacher, he always mentions the Black Angels because he said it breaks down the Black Shriners, the so-called Black Shriners that controlled the Nation of Islam from inside, and they was on a mission from Fard Muhammad, controlling.
And also the Ford family.
Ford family, okay.
Yes. That's a known fact, if you get the point. But anyway, so after I also, because I worked hard, because I used to do body work too, auto body work. I can cut two cars apart, put them back together, paint them, finish welding, you wouldn't know it was two cars. And know, if I was a barber, I'm a barber. You know, I can sew. I'm a tailor.
I seen that kitchen work you did as far as carpentry. That was phenomenal.
Yeah, thank you.
I told you guys Taj Tarik Bey is a jack of all trades. He's a carpenter, he's a singer, he's a mechanic. He would have been a sniper in the military, an assassin in the military. Taj is a jack of all trades, and above all else, he's a Moorish rambler / Moorish miseducated is what I would call him.
You know, that's what I used to do as you know, as a contractor until I just, you know, stop doing it, and I do personal work for people. But that's what I used to do professionally too.
I was telling we told Dr. G we're gonna go over there and do some live demonstrations about putting these sea mosses and these teas together.
Yeah, you come over there and do some cooking on that stove.
Yeah, we gonna. She said she don't even know how to work it yet. We got to get the instructions.
Yeah, it's cool. You touch the stove and blue lights come on.
Oh man, they got a spaceship over there. Yeah.
Anyway.
So what's the difference? So you got, because I seen a brother. And it was like, basically, they try to say, like, you know, the thing is the frustration, how brothers approach you in their teachings is that two things. One, it says that you go outside of the teachings of the Moorish Science Temple, right?
Of course I do.
That's the first thing. Second thing, I want you to identify what branch.
Let me tell you what's up. Let me tell you what's up.
Go ahead, let's listen.
See, number one, when I came into the Nation of Islam, right?
Yes.
I came in knowing things. I didn't come in
as a believer.
And I think a lot of people are, unfortunately, and I'm not disrespecting anybody. You understand where I come from? But I'm used to reading from the age of 6. I have my own library, bookcases with books. Age of 7, and I built my bookcase, 7.5. You understand? So when I come into organizations, I didn't come in as a dummy. So I came in with knowledge. I didn't come in ignorant, looking for someone to lead me. I came to share, and I came to learn, and I came to do. I didn't come to, you know, do a salami bologna type thing. And I think a lot of people, particularly, and I discovered this also when I was younger, are uncomfortable when you know things. Because they're speaking from their beliefs. I don't deal with beliefs. I never did. I deal with See, if you deal with knowledge, beliefs aren't necessary.
I agree.
If you deal with knowledge, biases are not necessary. It's not part of your energy.
That's right.
Do you understand?
I do.
Even with your enemies, you're not biased.
So what's the difference then? Tell me, like, give the people the difference in the doctrine that's coming from the Moorish Science Temple.
Let me explain to you.
And what do you represent? Like, what are you the Great Seal? Are you the council? Like, give people the identification.
I am also the mirror of the Order of the Great Seal. And I was elected in like 92.
Yeah,
up in land of Nod, upper state New York. For Jersey area. But that's, for me, it was just simply part of my travels.
Got you.
And a lot of what I did and a lot of what I do is not what I sought to do. It fell in my lap by virtue of me being a rebel. Because my spirit is a rebel spirit. In other words, like, this is my position. If someone who is my enemy gives me information, and I research and find it to be true, I will adopt it. I do not lock myself into boxes. That's part of the problem of our people. Let's look at this, Brother Pharaoh. With all this attitude that many of our people have in their different so-called belief systems, the reason why we're not in unity, and the reason why, in spite of all the suffering, killings, lynchings, kidnappings, us being the predominant target for jailings, etc., why that's so successful is because we're divided, because most of our people keep going by beliefs. Right. And when you bring facts to them, they start getting angry, thinking that you're attacking them when you're trying to lift them up.
Yes.
You're trying to bring competence into the area. Science and knowledge fixes things. Emotions and belief don't. It make you feel good. It's like a drug.
It is.
But it fixes nothing. And then you have to take the position. You come to a reality. This is the reality I came to. With the sadness and realities that I experienced, going into service, seeing my family destroyed by these people. They would use my intelligence to go kill some of my own brothers and sisters around the world when I was plotting on them. If you get the whole point.
Yeah, I'm with you.
This is the real deal. Earlier in my life, the things I love, I lost. I've had a lot of good things, in my life, women and everything. I have no regrets. But you know how, like, when you well, it's just for me. I'm just speaking for myself, and I know with brothers, a lot of times brothers aren't as open as women are, and won't admit their pain. You understand what I'm saying? We don't talk. Women talk. We don't talk. We hold a lot of things in because we want to play this masculine image.
Yeah. They cry at each other. Women cry at each other. We ain't crying at each other.
But you already know the reality is my dedication to my family that was broken can never and could never be restored, no matter what I did.
That's real.
And I found myself, like many of us do, spending years looking for that elusive butterfly of love. And even if it comes, you don't see it because your heart is already lost.
That's right. You caught up. I understand.
It was nothing that they could take from me. They already took it. You understand?
That's what set you on a mission. That's right. And no fear.
I can't be bought, and I ain't afraid. You understand what I'm saying to you? And I know the rules of death. I already know those rules. But guess what? These demons was plotting on using my intelligence to hurt other people, to keep them in power. And all the time, I'm plotting on them. The real deal of it is, you know the feeling of not wanting to go to the grave because you feel that you owe your ancestors a war that you never fought?
I have no idea what Taj Tarik Bey is talking about. I am 100% clueless right now.
That's also part of my spirit.
They say that you're not ready to go. We still in the midst of this. Let me do my job.
I'm getting them with my intelligence that they were going to use against my own people.
Facts.
And I wasn't the one.
Well, I'm gonna say I'm gonna share this. That I don't know if I was as advanced as you. I know that as far as the test that they gave me in public school, I was reading at a college level in the 3rd grade. They knew that, and my interest though was to get my math level on the same place where my reading and comprehension was, and they kept it away from me all throughout school. They would keep math away from me because of my reading being so high. You know what I'm saying?
You already know. He who knows the math knows the universe.
The math, language, music, computer, all of that falls in sequence with each other.
Yes.
That once you crack that, that's it. Especially if you have the reason and the logical deduction capabilities, it's over.
Yeah, so. And then, and even this another thing the same thing with me in school, because I actually quit school in the 10th grade.
Okay, so let's start putting this puzzle together. We have Devon Bey sitting here listening to his master teacher. Pretty much we're getting a glimpse at how Devon Bey learns a lot of this Moorish nonsense. Now his master teacher that he's learning from today is Taj Tarik Bey. Now you just heard Taj Tarik Bey say he quit school in the 10th grade. So Devon Bey right now is being educated by a man with a 10th grade level education. This is absolutely amazing. This shows you why these Moorish sovereigns are so lost and confused. They are taking advice from a man with a 10th grade level of education. That is absolutely ridiculous, and it actually explains a lot. Why would you be sitting here and trying to learn all of this nonsense from a man who quit school in the 10th grade? Wow.
This is another thing in relative. Same thing with me in school because I actually quit school in the 10th grade. This is another thing in relative. Same thing with me in school because I actually quit school in the 10th grade. This is another thing in relative. Same thing with me in school because I actually quit school in the 10th grade.
Okay.
You know, I couldn't take it anymore. You know, because it from a child, you know, like when you're in school and to you they're talking to you like a baby.
Yeah.
And half the stuff they're telling you, you already know, and you could tell that they're really stagnating you.
Yes.
So I wanted to go to work, help my father. I didn't want to. I couldn't deal with it anymore. But the reality of it is that a lot of that energy of injury, I turned it into love for curing things, for fixing things. And back to the point what you talked about, like when anybody that really studies Noble Drew Ali, one of the things that Noble Drew Ali always said that people need to pay attention to, and I noticed that a lot of people don't. He said, the half has not been told. The half has not been told. If I told you everything, you would go back to sleep. Yeah. Now, a lot of things, I was always in the state of mind of, just tell me about the other half. You ain't got to give it to me, I'll go find it. And this is where we clash, if you get the point. Mm-hmm. Because I was already not dumb. I was already in a pattern of research from childhood. This is what I do naturally. You understand? Not because I'm trying to prove a point. It's because of what I do. Mm. Do you understand?
Absolutely.
And so I found out the FBI papers, and I could understand why nobody was talking.
So are you confirming that the FBI papers are real? Because I've heard brothers debating that FBI papers are not real.
Let's look at this. Let's look at this. Our people like to play this thug game and debate game. How many of them went down to the congressional records and got them papers themselves? I did.
I'm with it. That's the type of stuff I'm
You understand?
Yeah.
I did research before the internet. Mm. You understand? I started passing out the original presidents of 30 years ago that many people are using now, and the original Article 13 of Amendment, 40 sections.
Absolutely.
That's why I've been telling people for years, George Washington was the 9th president of the United States.
Wrong.
That's why I've been telling people for years, George Washington was the 9th president of the United States. That's why I've been telling people for years, George Washington was the 9th president of the United States. That's why I've been telling people for years, George Washington was the 9th president of the United States. You know, so logically, people who are groomed to thinking he was the first president are going to talk about, well, that's a difference of opinion. No, it's not a difference of opinion. Those are the facts.
It's a fact.
And you haven't been knowing it, and people around you who know it ain't talking. Now, that's an example. As an example, including you can go into congressional records and in the House journals and find history on American religions, and they have the documented history where the Temple of Allah came out of the Moorish Science Temple of America, which became the Nation of Islam. Daddy Grace knew the knowledge, Father Divine, Bishop Johnson, etc. All of them had the knowledge. It wasn't a secret in the sense that it was an unknown quantity or a body of information. It was suppressed information and what you would call cutthroat information.
Why
meaning that compel you to talk. When you
they
really
want nobody to talk. That's
try
right.
to liberate our people, you're walking on eggshells of death.
That's a fact.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
Now, the point that I'm making is, logically, when you're doing research and doing cross-reference, and then you come out and share that information, it clashes with people who operate by doctrine. Doctrine is like a cookie cutter mold. And what you find is many organizations, with both the leaders and the club members, they want everybody to come with this cookie cutter. Everybody walk down, everybody got purple suit on. Instead of green tie, brown shoes. And when you ain't your laces ain't tied the way they are, that shirt, you outside the box. I was never. When you're trying to fix something or liberate people, you can't be in a box. You got to deal with facts. You got to be able to stick and move just like if you're boxing. If somebody beating your ass, you better adjust very quickly. You better adjust. That's right. You know, that's right. And then somebody says, now you want to put your hands up now. Put your hands back down. Take selfies. Yeah, so you get 2 black eyes. You know, and what I discovered after doing some research, I recognized that many of the so-called leaders were placed among us. Next. They talk good game. They always are trained to start talking about racism and prejudice, racism and prejudice, racism and prejudice, racism is species. Prejudice is an attitude. You can't get suit remedy in international court on that. That's attitude. You got to talk about restoration of a state and trespassing and breach of treaty and constitution. Now you have some power. And you can't do it on emotion. You got to do it with some knowledge. Okay, I'm with that. I'm with all that. So now, boom. We here, y'all. Let me remind the people, we here with the grand shit.
Well, thanks for coming back, Mr. Devon Bey. I don't know why you keep getting up. This is a class that you're in. This is literally your study session, and you keep getting up, walking away, you're falling asleep, you're eating in class, you're smoking cigarettes. Please stay focused. Come on, man.
Hey, please, they show your love and spread and share and tell the people to come in the audience that the God been dropping jewels, bombs over Baghdad for decades.
Let me share with you. As a matter of fact, a note to the Secretary of State, 1906, right? Let me just grab this for a second.
No problem. Yeah, family, please like, share.
This is one of my lesson books that I did on treaty and constitution.
Okay.
Now, many people.
Where can we find the book?
This is not out in mainstream because I wouldn't sell out. This is desktop copy. However, I'm putting it out with the original notes for our people. This is research documentation. It's not emotional.
Excuse me, Brother Taj, but you did not answer this brother's question. He asked you, where can we find the book that you wrote? Please answer the question directly.
Do you understand?
What you got, you know.
So when you're dealing with, like when people have experience and they write a novel perspective of history, which is often what's given to us, it makes us feel good, but it fixes nothing. It simply sacrifices the next generation.
That's a fact.
You got
Is that book on the flash drive?
No, this book is not on the flash drive.
All right.
Some of my notes are. But I'm going to read to you, as an example, a note to the Secretary of State. And these are things that are known by all scholars, but are not taught to our people. Right?
Yeah, we're listening.
This is the Secretary of State in relationship to citizenship. And as you can see here, and this is what I did. If you can see here, you see this text right here, down the bottom?
Yeah, move it over to the right a little. Or to the left, the other way. Yeah, the other way. Yeah.
Now here, and this text that you see here, the reason why you see that's darker,
yeah.
The reason why the print is darker, because I already knew that we have what you call infiltrators among us and sellouts among us. That's actually photo of the documents from the Library of Congress. I didn't retype them. This is so that it can't be denied, because I already know what happens whenever you bring out stuff that nobody wants to talk about. So here's citizenship of the United States, expatriation, etc., page 459, chapter 5, temporary provisions. And guess what? There you go, brother. Excuse me. Here again. Morocco. United States is on Moroccan territories. Here you go. their documents.
That's a fact. Listen, I don't.
Charge d'Affaires, 1906, August, American Legation, Tangier, August the 3rd, 1906. There are, strictly speaking, no Moroccan laws related to citizenship of Moorish subjects in Morocco. The fundamental laws of this non-Christian country are based entirely upon the Islamic code, no part of which treats of the subject of citizenship. However, and this is page 460, there are, however, numerous treaties and conventions between the various Christian countries and the Moorish Empire, by means of which citizenship in this country is defined. But as I understand from the above acknowledged instructions, that it is not the desire of the department to call for a report on such lines, meaning the department didn't want this to be public in general.
That's right.
I will therefore confine these remarks to general conditions existing, which may possibly be of some use in connection with the information desired. Number one, citizenship in Morocco may be said to be governed by the laws pertaining to the same in other countries, with the exception that all persons residing in Morocco who cannot prove foreign citizenship or protection are considered ipso jure as Moorish subjects. That means if these people don't have any nationality cards to prove that they're citizens of any other country, ipso jure means as the law stands universally, they're Moors.
Now, as you can see, this is Master Teacher Taj Tarik Bey. Mr. Taj Tarik Bey admitted that he has a 10th grade education level, and it's clear to see why these Moorish sovereigns are so confused, because they listen to this stuff that he is talking about and he just confuses them. Obviously, anybody who is listening to him and accepting his teachings has to be less intelligent than him. So we know Taj is at a 10th grade educational level. So anybody who is following him, their educational level is lower than that. Now you see he just read a whole bunch of stuff that is pertaining to Morocco and Moroccan citizenship, and this is why Moorish Americans are confused, because they believe, key word, believe, that their ancestors are from Morocco. Like that, whatever it was that he was just reading was talking about Morocco and the citizens of Morocco, meaning people that are under the Moroccan government. You Moorish Americans are not under the Moroccan government. You guys were born here in America. You are under the United States government. You are United States citizen. That paper that he just read, I'm not even sure if it's true or not, or if it's something that he made up. I'm going to look into it myself. But either way, even if it is a legitimate thing that he's reading, that paper is referring to Moroccan citizens, people that were born in Morocco, people that reside in Morocco, not you Moorish Americans who in your heads believe, keyword, believe that you are under the Moroccan government. The Moroccan government doesn't know who you are. They have no records of you, no birth records, no birth certificates, or what you like to call live birth or whatever it is. They don't know who you guys are. You guys were born here, accept it, and just, that's it.
They automatically, they're categorized as Moors.
Now let's go read into some nationality. Chapter 6. A basic feature of today's system of nation states is the relative helplessness of the individual. At birth, he finds himself a member of some political institution, typically a state in the international system, which more or less protects him from the violence of other individuals and groups of individuals. In the domestic legal system of that state, its police and courts may offer protection from harm inflicted within the state. This is where Moore say, with nationality, your rights are protected and you don't have your rights molested because you have status and standing at law. Let's read on. It says, its police and courts may offer protection from harm inflicted within the state, while its army may protect him from harm caused by aggression from outside the state. If the individual steps outside his state and is injured by someone in another state, he is largely on his own. He must look for redress, if any, in the courts of that other state. Doctrines of sovereign immunity may bar him from redress for injuries caused by that state. However, as a last resort, the individual must appeal to his own state's government to help him. If it chooses, it may come to his aid by espousing a claim against the wrongdoing state through diplomatic channels, or possibly through arbitration, or through judicial means, such as the International Court of Justice. For the protection it offers him at home and the protection it may offer him against foreign injuries, the state demands obligations of the individual in return: to obey its laws, to pay its taxes, to help to defend it against aggression. The physical fact of an individual's presence within a state has been the major basis from which the state exerts its power to protect the individual and to demand his allegiance. However, the processes of history have developed legal relationships between the state and the individual that do not depend solely upon his physical presence in the territory of the state. The state has a special relationship to those it designates as its nationals. In broad and in exact terms, the state's nationals are entitled to greater rights than non-nationals, e.g., in states with voting systems, the national is permitted to vote. The non-national is not. The state is more ready to demand that the national perform obligations, e.g., the national may be subject to laws prescribed by his state even though he is not physically present in its territory. The practices of states in creating the class of people upon whom they confer nationality vary widely. Some states accord nationality to individuals born within the territory. This right of nationality is referred to as jus soli. Some states accord nationality at birth only to individuals born of parents who are already nationals. This is where they say you get your nationality from your mom. This right of nationality is referred to as jus sanguinis. An increasing number of states recognize both bases. In addition to according nationality based upon facts associated with birth, states afford naturalization processes by which individuals may apply for and be granted nationality. As a result of such a variety of bases for nationality existing in the international system, it is possible for an individual to be designated a national and thus have dual nationality or even multiple nationality. Indeed, there are circumstances under which he may have no nationality at all and thus be stateless. From the perspective of the international legal system, several important questions arise. One, is a state free to set its own standards for conferring its nationality upon an individual, or does international law set some minimum standard? Two, what is the significance of nationality as a base for the states requiring the performance of obligations by an individual? For example, can the state draft into its army someone who is not its national? This chapter will explore these and other related questions. Nationality as a concept of municipal law. The law of conflicts and nationality matters. Many municipal statutes and court decisions fall obviously into the category of municipal law of nationality, for no consideration of any law other than that imposed by a sovereign in its unilateral dealings with individuals is involved. In other instances, the municipal character of the legal consideration is not so obvious. It say, for the consideration may involve principles of nationality belonging to foreign states and contrary to the generally applicable law of the forum. This situation results not from municipal application of international law, but rather from application of the rules of conflicts of the law, whereby the law of the forum embraces this principle of foreign municipal law. There's a special branch of conflict of laws dealing with nationality, concerned with determining whether certain rules of foreign law on which the existence, acquisition, or loss of nationality may depend will be given effect. For instance, the acquisition or loss of the nationality of a particular country may be dependent on the absence or presence, loss, or acquisition of a foreign nationality. In this situation, the municipal law of the forum is not applied. Instead, a substantive principle of foreign law is applied by the forum. This process does not involve any concept of international law. It is the result of ordinary conflicts of law rules, as the foreign law applied has become the law of the forum in the case at hand. There's a second situation in which a casual observer might mistake the operation of municipal law of nationality for that of international law. This is when resort has been made to international law as a guide in formulating municipal law. For example, the International Claims Settlement Act of 1949 provides a claim shall not be allowed unless the property upon which the claim is based was owned by a national of the United States on the date of, taken thereof, and continuously thereafter until the date of filing. With reference to this statutory provision, the House Committee which formulated it commented, the section gives statutory recognition to the basic requirement of international law governing espousable international claims, which is that no claim can be so regarded unless the claim was continuously owned by a national of the claimant state from the date of loss to the date the claim is filed. And then it goes and says, thus, the United States in its municipal law has given formal effect to one of the best established principles of international law. However, all right, let's I'm gonna read acquisition of nationality. An individual may acquire nationality either originally, that is through the circumstances of this birth, or derivatively by some action after birth. Original acquisition of nationality. Two principles serve as the basis for the original acquisition of nationality: jus soli and jus sanguinis. Jus soli may be defined as the acquisition of a particular state's nationality by virtue of being born within the territory of that state. The principle of jus sanguinis may be defined as the acquisition of a particular state's nationality by virtue of the possession of the nationality by one's parents. Nationality under this principle may be said to be acquired by descent. Meaning you are your forefathers were. Derivative acquisition of nationality. The derivative acquisition of nationality has been referred to as naturalization ipso facto. As such, it deals with the process of naturalization in its broadest sense. Naturalization, derivatively acquired, generally flows from some action of the person naturalized after birth. Several methods of acquiring nationality fall within the broad category of naturalization by marriage, by legitimation, by acquisition of domicile, by entry into the service of a foreign state, by resumption of a lost nationality, and by the familiar naturalization process of a formal act on the application of the individual concerned. In all of these areas, substantial differences exist in the particular practices of individual states. These multifarious practices are consonant with the principles of international law, and that it is well recognized that one of the aspects of territorial sovereignty is the power to determine who, by what method, and according to which standards an alien may acquire nationality. The most important and commonly encountered method of acquiring nationality is that process known as naturalization. And now they go to loss of a nationality. It says, as nationality may be gained, so may it be lost. The two primary methods by which the loss of nationality occurs are expatriation and denationalization. We got denationalized in 1774 and labeled Negro black colors and African Americans in 1779 in Philadelphia.
Wrong.
Expatriation consists of a formal renunciation of the possessed nationality by an individual who has left the state whose nationality he possesses and has or is in position to acquire another nationality. The renunciation is the explicit announcement by the individual by which he sheds his possessed nationality. The formal consent of the state whose nationality is renounced to the individual's renunciation is known as a release. Denationalization, on the other hand, may be defined as an act by a state by which it deprives one of its nationals of his nationality. Denationalization may occur either by operation of law, certain conduct resulting in ipso facto loss, or after an administrative or judicial proceeding instituted by the state. Now we're going to get back into this.
Now, here's the thing. I'm not even quite sure why, Devon, you just went into reading that, reading all of that stuff that you just read. Number one, the first part of what you read is talking about foreign courts and this and that. But if you are trying to, quote unquote, educate us, first you should cite what exactly it is that you're reading and what book it is and what page you're on, so we can get some more context on what it is, the message that you're trying to convey, because you just off rip just started reading something, so we really don't have the context of what of the idea of why you even read what you read. Like, you just read some stuff and it's just a bunch of random stuff, and then you went into the nationality thing, and all of that nationality thing that you just read is pretty straightforward. But I'm sure that because you guys are so stuck on nationality and my nationality is this or that, I already know that you did not even comprehend what you were just reading. But what you just read was fairly simple. It's saying that pretty much you get your nationality from the country that you're born in, and then you can other ways of acquiring nationality, which would be a foreigner coming from another country, and they naturalize by getting their citizenship. Therefore, once they're granted their citizenship, they get the nationality of that country. Let me give you an example. Let's say somebody was born in Trinidad. Their nationality would be Trinidadian. Okay, so they now left Trinidad and came over to the United States. Now what they do is they file the paperwork to become a citizen of the United States, and once they're granted citizenship, their nationality now changes because now they owe allegiance to the country that they're a citizen of, meaning their nationality would now be American. They nationalized, and now their nationality is American. They're no longer a Trinidadian because they expatriated or denationalized themselves from being Trinidadian and crossed over here and became a citizen and now carry the American nationality. It's that simple. It's not more confused than that. All that other stuff that you guys like to think is just flat out wrong. And furthermore, there is no nationality. There is no Moorish nationality. You guys do not have a government. So there you don't have allegiance to. How could you have an allegiance to a government that is non-existent? You guys just made that up. Like there's no Moorish American nationality, and then you want to say that you're Moorish American because your forefathers came from Morocco, but Moroccans are not Moorish anything. Moroccans are Moroccans. They are citizens of Morocco. They're not Moorish anything. So you guys just have it all wrong.
If I see something else, I'll do a little more reading.
Because that's the bloodline. 2 and 3. Moorish subjects lost their nationality only by becoming naturalized, not nationalized, naturalized in or protected by another country having treaty relations with the Moorish Empire. It was established by the Convention of Madrid, concluded July the 3rd, 1880. That's why they're called black, because they've been denationalized.
Wrong.
Okay, so you're saying because that black people were called black, that made them denationalized, right? So what about the white people that are called white? Are they also have they also been denationalized? And if so, what was their nationality before they were called white? Like these are questions that must be asked. Like it's clear that this man has no idea what he's talking about. He is just talking just to talk.
And everybody keep talking about the straw man. That's where the black codes come in. When the Moors start being called blacks and Negroes, that take them out of birthright. Nationalization that Drew Ali set up.
All right, I'll see something else I want to read, and then I'm gonna let Taj go right back in. I want to go in on each country determines for itself who are its nationals, subject to certain limitations on expansive claims imposed by the international law. All right. Nationality decrees in Tunis and Morocco, Great Britain versus France, Permanent Court of International Justice. Decrees promulgated in Tunis and Morocco on November 8, 1921, declared every person born in Tunis or the French zone of Morocco of parents, at least one of whom was a foreigner who had also been born there, to be subject to certain conditions of proof a French national. The British government objected to the enforcement of the decrees, particularly with respect to forcible induction into military service against persons who were the descendants of British subjects and therefore under British law themselves British subjects. France having refused to submit the dispute to arbitration, the British government placed the matter before the Council of the League of Nations. I'm talking about Morocco up in there, but then they go into the Convention on Certain Questions Relating to the Conflict of Nationality Laws, signed at The Hague, April 12, 1930. It is for each state to determine under its own law who are its nationals. This law shall be recognized by other states insofar as it is consistent with international conventions, international custom, and the principles of law generally recognized with regard to nationality. Article 2. Any question as to whether a person possesses the nationality of a particular state shall be determined in accordance with the law of that state. Article 3. Subject to the provisions of the present convention, a person having 2 or more nationalities may be regarded as its national by each of the states whose nationality he possesses. 2. What limits does international law, particularly international custom and the principles of law, generally recognize with regard to nationality? Impose on the power of states to legislate on matters of nationality. Harvard Research and International Law suggested in 1929 that the power of a state to confer its nationality was not unlimited. All right, let's get back to this, and then we'll come back if we find something a little more important. My bad.
Is the converse or the counter to that to reestablish the established law of nations, because these people aren't black, colored, Negro, they are Moors, and without their pedigree bloodline, they have no heritability. So any other effort made by us is a waste of time and a sacrifice, and all people know it and keep pretending they don't understand what Noble Drew Ali did, as if he's talking about some belief systems. He's talking law.
I got that. That's heavy. What page is that you just read inside the book?
Now, in my book, as a matter of fact, what I'm going to do when I see you again, not only flash drive, I want you to look at the Dungy case.
Yeah, I wrote that down. Yeah,
that's on the flash drive.
Okay.
And you already probably know about the Dred Scott case, which is the most important case.
57, yeah.
And then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna let you hold this book until the new publishing comes out, and let you go.
You got a new copy coming out, a new version.
You understand?
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna give you other papers. I'm gonna give you fundamental papers on chapter 1 of American law, law and government and sovereignty. And this is from text that if our people went to get the...
Okay, so I let that drag out a little long, but do you recognize a pattern here? The brother just asked Taj Tarik Bey another question that Taj Tarik Bey clearly didn't answer. The only thing that brother just asked him was, what page of the book was that you just read from? And Taj Tarik Bey did not answer him. Taj Tarik Bey never answers questions directly. He asked him, what page was that? And Taj is going into, oh, I'm going to give you this book, and I'm going to give you that book, and I'm going to give you a flash drive. Brother, he didn't ask you any of that. He asked you what page that was that you just read from. You see, this is the trickery that these Moorish sovereigns, these Moorish Americans do. They do not answer questions directly because they know if they answer questions directly, they can be proven wrong with the information that they're presenting. There's a reason why Taj did not answer that simple question directly. All he asked was for Taj to tell him what page it was that he was reading from. And Taj does not answer the question. I wonder why.
Books, it would cost them like $16,000. Everything that is
Amari,
of meaningful, they block from us. Do you understand?
Absolutely.
And so if you understand how I roll, and it's not me special, I'm not special. I always tell people, don't get captured with what images are. I'm just Taji guy with the cheap sneaks. I'm just doing what my mother sent me to do, just like everybody else doing what they're supposed to do. And even then, I'm not doing enough. However, what I refuse to do is, after research, cross-reference, and double research, and finding information that's buried, and then refusing to tell it because it goes against the club, I'm not that one.
So what about, you got brothers like, specifically like, got the Moorish brother that got the Moorish World TV, shout out to the brother, Tarik Bey, and he'd come out and he'll say things like, you know, you doing nationality processes, and that's not a part of what the prophet was doing. And
all right, let's here we go.
Yeah,
not nationality processes. Noble Drew Ali told us to take this to the hedges and the highways. have certification as an adept and as a grand sheik from the Moorish Temple of America. So from that position, I'm qualified. Although this is my position, I recognize that Drew Ali brought this information to us over 113 years ago.
That's a fact.
I also know from research and also being experienced traveling the country that many of the people, unfortunately, in leadership are actually compromised. Don't mean that they're bad people in a sense, but they're compromised. They have no guts to deal with anything controversial. Are we clear? So they're not going to battle for our people at all. Are we clear?
That's right.
Our people are being abused. You will not see them enforce the Constitution. Act 1, the divine bylaws by the prophet for the Moorish Temple of America and the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. Moderator chairman to put in power to make law and to enforce law if they live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And it is known by the members of the Moorish Temple of America. How many of them, when brothers have been taken unlawfully under color of law into prisons, how often have you seen them go and enforce Article 3, Section 2, diversity court of diversity and release their people? How many have you seen do that?
Well, I'm nobody. Because
now, but they mad because I've been doing it.
Okay, so as you can see, once again, Devon Bey has fallen asleep in class. This is Devon Bey in his home listening to Taj Tarik Bey. So in essence, he's in the classroom right now. So he's a student and he has fallen asleep in class again. Wow, Devon. Like, I know Taj Tarik Bey rambles and rambles and rambles, but for him to put you to sleep twice in the same class, it's a bit ridiculous, sir. How are you going to pass this class? How are you going to go out there and let these officers know that you're not driving, you're traveling, and that your nationality is Moorish? How are you going to articulate these things correctly if you keep falling asleep in class? Wake your behind up.
Yeah, you've been doing that?
I've done that for years, and I've been transferring that knowledge to others now. I chill back now, and I travel, and I teach. But the deal of it is, these are fundamental established rules of law that they're put in place to enforce. They haven't been doing it. So guess what I've done? I took it to the people.
You have. You've been on the front line.
I took it to the people. It belongs to them. It's their birthright. This ain't no damn club.
Wake up! Wake up! Come on. Wake up.
But no, yeah. So that's crazy.
Some of them are upset with me because this is the other deal, Pharaoh. Because once you make people erudite, meaning that the things that I'm saying to you now, right behind you, you always see that Black's Law Dictionary, right?
Absolutely, I know.
Right? You see the American Heritage Dictionary with etymology in it.
That's right.
You see Webster's 1828. I could take anyone and take what Drew Ali presented to us and go do research and show them that these are established facts that have been held back from us. Why aren't these people who keep claiming they love our people teaching them the truth about what happened to them? Just because it's out of the box of the narrative that we've been taught. Well, guess what? It's outside of the box of the narrative.
It is, but it's the fact. So
and I don't run from the facts. So when I go out and talk to the people, I don't try to hide things. I don't try to have some image. As a matter of fact, most times you see me when I'm traveling, I even stop wearing my vest because I didn't have no peace. I go to the airport, people from other countries want to take pictures and stuff. And so I dressed it.
Most of the time you run around with you got a regular hat with a button. Most of the time.
That's my flag.
Yeah, with the flag. That's right.
Flying my colors according to international law. You know, but the deal of it is, I don't want the attention. I want to get the work done. don't want the image. I want to get the work done.
Well, on that same situation, the brother he had a couple, a brother and sister, that claimed that they were traveling the state on the behalf of the organization. Specifically yours. And what did we talk about? The counselor. What is it called?
No. Now, all right. Listen. I'm giving you a point of reference. For years, for over 30 years, I've been promoting. I used to do, even in New York and different areas, we would do mock courts to get our people used to challenging jurisdiction of the court, teaching them about mandamus, writ of abridgment of jurisdiction, the writ of quo warranto, the fundamental things that they should be using, as opposed to arguing stupid arguments of racism and stuff that gets them nowhere, only gets them in contempt.
Yes.
You get the whole point.
Absolutely.
Now, and logically, it starts messing up the system. So you get a lot of pushback, but that's the law. The law is the law. Just because they're unlawful don't mean you be unlawful. You get the point?
Mm-hmm.
And it became apparent to me in short order that many of these people, including the critics, and I ain't mad at them because they just following a party line, if you get the whole point. Just like people who say they Democrat or Republican, they don't think for themselves. They follow a party line.
That's real.
I'm not that one. I'm not against people who are closed-minded, but I'm not guided by people who are closed-minded. Are we clear?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up out of your sleep, wake up out of your sleep, wake up, I command you.
But you set that agenda for years, so you set the tone for that.
People who talk shit but don't rock the boat. My position is they have a right to do that. I'm the one that put a hole in the damn boat.
So let me get a clarification, because I specifically want to talk about this incident, because the storyline was that the brother and sister was traveling across country, nationalizing people, going through the process, and
go ahead.
It was on the Tarik Bey Moorish world situation. And the brother was pulled over and gave them the ID, and the police basically took them into custody. It was like the plates wasn't real, the ID wasn't back on it. And he named them. He called them a stateless and lawless people.
Yeah, now, please. And I understand that dynamics.
Sure, yeah.
And the real deal of it is, it's called protocols of order.
Say what?
Now, I'll also give you a lot of stare decisis, and I won't even argue against what was said. I will give you stare decisis, and then, matter of fact, you'll be able to do a show yourself and counter what was said. See, this is what they do. Because our people are waking up and starting to exercise rights that actually belong to them, they would accuse our people of being wrong rather than accuse the private commercial mercenaries of operating under a color of authority to suppress our people, because now it's affecting their insurance industry and it's affecting their bond system, because all certificates of titles of cars were put on the bond system since 1933.
What you talking about, Willis?
It's amazing how this brother Taj Tarik Bey is considered one of the elite Moorish teachers out there. And as you can hear for yourselves, this brother is talking a bunch of nonsense. It's a wonder why Devon Bey is so confused out here.
The people don't own their cars. This is what they're operating on when they stop people's vehicles. Are we clear?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't they talk about that? Why? Because most of them are sellouts to the system. So they talk trash like if you exercise a right, you're going to get in trouble. Our position is it's going to take brave men and women to stand up for the rights, because they're not going to be given back to you. You have to reclaim them. But you also have to know them, not legally, but lawfully.
Lawfully. That's right.
A few have the courage to stand up and exercise those rights. Most of them back down unless it's a brother or sister who stepped on their shoes at a club. Then they're ready to shoot them. You know, I'm telling these people are punks, and they don't like me because I'm honest about it. You understand?
Absolutely. My energy vibe. I vibe on energy. You're very sincere, passionate brother. I appreciate you. I think you're genuine, and I know that you move. You move on a different beat, a different drum than the traditional people. You know what I'm saying? And that's okay because we're supposed to think outside of the box. We're supposed to color outside the lines. You know.
And you know what, Pharaoh? It's like this, and I want to make myself very, very clear.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I appreciate that.
I don't try to be outside the box to be different. I be outside the box when I discover a lie or deceit, and then I no longer practice it along with club members. It doesn't mean I'm rejecting them. I reject falsehood. I reject misrepresentation. I reject lies and false history.
Yes.
I reject reconstructed history, and I support truth, even if it comes from an enemy.
You're loyal to the truth and committed to the reality and the mission, and that's official. That's rare. It's rare and in between, far and in between to find. So let me ask you this now, because now we're talking about this mission that we on. We're talking about the freedom of our people, you know, and the claiming of our rights. So now when we spoke.
Now let's hold like this for the people, for the audience. To claim a right, you must know what that right is.
Mm-hmm.
In operations of government, a right not known and not claimed is considered abandoned. This is where the term you hear, if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. That's where that term comes from. That's a reality. That's not a mere opinion of somebody that's racist. That is the rule.
Wow.
The deal over there, anyone who is not competent of self is held as ward. Ward is a modern legal term demonstrating a being, even if they're older, that has the mentality of a minor, and therefore they're classified as minority. It does not mean African numbers of small numbers of African people in America. It means incompetent persons that may be what you call of adult age, but are mentally deficient.
Devon, why do you keep getting up and leaving the classroom? You put this on for us to learn with you. Why do you keep getting up? How are you going to pass the test if you keep leaving the classroom? You are missing the message.
And our people keep throwing it around like it's some badge of African honor, knowing damn well it's a legal status, not opinion. It's a legal status. Let me give you something, which you already know, but this is just for the audience as an example.
Just give it up. Let's go.
You know how people always talking like they're talking trash, you know, like they're being so deep because they say they're talking against the man. They're talking against the system. No, don't talk against the system. Start using your brains to beat the system. And if you ain't trying to undo colonialism, don't sit around and complain about it. This goes for a lot of the so-called trolls. They talk shit but do nothing.
Yeah, the armchair revolutionaries.
No, they will not get out on them. They won't get in the mud with the people to help the people.
That's real.
What they always try to do is get them come part of the club and pay dues.
And sit on the side.
Another word for taxes.
So
with no purpose, and then throw a prayer here and there, and you're supposed to feel good while your children are dying younger and younger. Your families are falling apart. IRS taking all your shit. And you talking Afrocentric. Please, not me. I'm not.
It's not the time for that. This is a different. See, this is a shift in the paradigm.
For that. That's my point.
I understand, but the world, you know, most of the people have to catch up to brothers like yourself. You know what I'm saying? A lot of us were stuck in the matrix.
This is the deal. And this is what I recognize, Pharaoh. And this is why we start doing the flash drive.
Yes.
Because the flash drive is synopsis information that's gathered over the years, much of which is the controversial information that many people who know this information will hold to themselves, and others who are Masons will not tell. And logically, the hybrid European ain't going to talk about it publicly because he's a colonist, if you get the whole point.
Yeah.
And then, this is the other problem. When you start teaching the people facts, what happens is you shake their world. Because now they're uncomfortable. They got to start taking responsibility. And they've been trained to hide from responsibility with a prayer or a march. Do you understand?
Listen, that's heavy because we were taught that the route to becoming a deity is the ability to respond. Responsibility means the ability to respond. And the colonizers have been teaching us the science of scapegoatism, which is basically always projecting that responsibility on someone else instead of taking it yourself. And that's why we've been losing. That's right.
A program rather than getting up off your ass and rocking the boat.
That's real. That's real.
You know, everything they would say was like this. And this is just like Tarik and them would say, Taji guy was teaching these people law, and they ain't supposed to know that stuff because now the master going to get mad. That's basically what they're saying. Don't make the master mad.
Yeah.
You know, and all they do, many of them, not all of them, is say Noble Drali every 5 minutes just to sound like they've done something, and then say a prayer, and our people are suffering, and the IRS has been taking all their stuff. They don't own crap. They get profiled, but they national. No, they're full of shit.
So the first of all, I love the fire. I love the fire, the passion, and the sincerity. Like we had this conversation about with you and the brother Emperor Khufu. I'm having this conversation and building online. So I want to know if it's okay if I could send him the link.
Always.
So that we can, because we want to unify. We want to
already talk. Now let me say this to you. I want to say this to you.
Go ahead, God.
The problem that we have, and I want you to make note on this and put it to the test.
Go ahead.
Number one, most of our people never had an etymon degree, so they can't read even though they read words.
Go ahead, I understand. Explain what etymon is.
An etymon is what is to words, to language, what atom is to building blocks. It is the rule of erudition that is used all over the world by all scholars to research time periods and other scholars from different periods. An etymon is the root, the origin, the true meaning, and the morphology of words. This is why our people can't read contracts. This is why our people keep getting their mortgages.
They come from the same root as etymology.
Etymology, yes. Etymology is the science. Etymon is the singular word.
Got you.
Do you understand?
Absolutely.
Now, they know that most of our people have been hindered or handicapped from childhood because this is why they've always boasted and said, if you want to hide something from a monkey, and the word for monkey is negro yavira arebo, in common language it would be called nigger. If you want to hide something from a monkey, just put it in a book.
That's what they say.
Because they can't read.
Wow.
Now, why are they saying that? Because they knew from the skull and bones and Knights of Columbus and Rockefeller and Frederick T. Gates of 1902, after they murdered Winona in Philly, they set up the General Education Board, and they even make it public that they're going to dumb these people down. The philosophy page, people can go on their phones right now, who keep talking about they care about the children, and they never even read the philosophy page of the General Education Board, where they tell them they're going to dumb their children down. Then they go around and marching and praying and that, we want our children, and Johnny can't read. They write all kind of Negro books. And the reality is, rather than teach them etymology so they can understand that they've been taught deliberately under animal husbandry and connotative linguistics with social engineering. It's not an attitude. What I just said is exactly the scientific engineering that is used. It's called connotative linguistics and animal husbandry, which people of so-called color have been trained under since 1902. Now, why don't they stop talking racism and go ahead and teach to children etymology?
Because they don't want our children to learn.
Exactly.
They don't want our children to break the mold.
I'm talking about the hybrid Europeans.
Well, most of our scholars are programmed also. They're part of the social engineering.
That's why we keep going in circles.
Absolutely.
I said we look the part and do the fart.
Look the part, do the fart.
And it goes on. And and because we have egos, if you really pay attention, a lot of times when our people, rather than present information and research, they want to debate.
Yes.
And when they want to debate, they coming up with their opinions.
Yes.
With a little bit of facts, most of them, and even the facts are limited, and it's something they heard from some other brother said in the club.
I agree.
Now,
so you had, I know you just talked about the education system. I thought about Isabert. It was, I think her name is Elizabeth Isabert. She was the Secretary of Education under Ronald Reagan, and she had a book called The Dumbing Down of America, and it was basically writing in how this world that we live in now was coming about back in the 80s, and that it was set forth a plan to make America a population of workers for the international.
Let's back up again. Let's back up again. As a matter of fact, while we're talking, go on your phone while we're talking.
Yeah.
And go General Education Board, John D. Rockefeller, 1902. And while I'm talking, read it. And this is public information. Goes to show you, not only are our so-called scholars not teaching their own people, they're pretending they don't know this. But see, if they can't play victim, they can't collect these fundraisers, can they?
That money, yeah. So, John D. Rockefeller. So we have
and read the philosophy page. Scroll down to the philosophy page.
Say the whole thing again.
John D. Rockefeller.
Yeah.
Frederick T. Gates. General Education Board, 1902. Philosophy page.
The brother is here. Philosophy page.
And guess what, Pharaoh?
I'm listening.
The way we're talking, see, this is what upsets them. Because when somebody saying, salami, bologna, oh, bless this house, oh, Lord, we pray. I'm not the one. And when you don't do that like that, and everybody's humming, peanut butter sandwich, humming, and you ain't lockstep, they think you're against them. It's not true. I'm trying to liberate.
I understand, but I'm talking. You talking that talk, and that's why we here, God. That's why I wanted the people to be exposed. You have generations of people that's coming that haven't been exposed to you, that haven't, so they see the brothers that's out there, but you wanted the brothers from the root.
Let's go like this. An honest, if our people were honest, right? Yeah. And I'm talking to all the so-called leaders, grand sheiks, assistant grand sheiks, and all the rest of them with these titles. If they were really honest, they would stop saying that I'm creating trouble for telling the truth. They would teach the truth themselves and start liberating our people, knowing that everybody will be uncomfortable for a while because they're going to have to shed a lot of things that they believe. They're going to have to shed a lot of things that they emotionally feel. They're going to have to get rid of a lot of their club members, and they're going to start having to really fix stuff and not, bust my winter time coming, the wind blowing, and everybody's going in a circle praying. No, you better get somebody that know how to fix a window, put that damn window in, and everybody can sit down and drink some tea.
I understand. Well, on that note, I want to introduce our day lawyer.
Okay, so that's enough for this video. I think we've suffered enough, but this video was to just give us a glimpse in a classroom on where Moorish Americans learn. As you can see, the teacher of the day was Taj Tarik Bey, and the student was Devon Bey. Now, because Taj Tarik Bey is always rambling, he put poor Devon to sleep twice. And also, Devon couldn't just stay in his seat. He kept getting up, leaving. Like, Devon, this was your class. This is where you were learning. Like, this is where you get your foolishness from. And you keep getting up to do whatever it is that you were doing. How are you going to pass the class? How are you going to apply this stuff that Taj taught in real life if half the time you weren't there or you were asleep? How are you going to become a true adept? How are you going to become a Moorish scientist? You must take this stuff more seriously. When you're in a class, you have to stay focused and pay attention. I didn't even see you taking any notes. But as I stated, Taj Tarik Bey, he's one of the Grandmaster Moorish teachers. He can never answer a question directly, and 99% of the stuff that he was teaching was straight garbage. But like I said, this was just so we can get a glimpse at the type of information that these Moorish sovereigns are learning. And as you guys could see, it is a bunch of nonsense.